All right, hello guys. Today I'll be talking about AI agents. So pretty much for this week, for my class, we're pretty much just creating a AI agent to see how they work and actually get familiar with them. So I mean, if you guys don't really know what an AI agent is, it's pretty much you kind of think of it as like ChatGPT. So like with ChatGPT, you could tell it to write a two-sentence poem for the love between Dosa and Sam. And I believe this is Indian story. I'm not too familiar with them, but this is kind of like an AI agent. An AI agent. ChatGPT is pretty much using agents in order to be able to give responses depending on what you give it. So like this picture over here, building an AI agent, you would have to train the model, deploy deployment of AI agent model. You would have to test it and moderate and monitor it and optimize it depending on how you like it, and also establish your objectives. So depending on how you want to create your AI agent, you would have to create some objectives and some policies depending on how you actually want to create it and what you actually want it to do. And well, you obviously have to select the right frameworks and libraries and select the programming language. And you could also collect data for training. It kind of depends on how big you actually want to create your AI agent. There are actually a lot of resources you could actually use and a lot of tools that you could use. So yeah, well, I want to get started with what I have. It's nothing too crazy. It's just a little simple AI agent that I took inspiration. So I could just close these for now. And yeah, so well, to get started, this is kind of like a simple one. It's nothing too crazy. Just to show like the basics. So you could just comment these out right now. We could comment these out right now. So let me close this thing real quick. Okay, so yeah, so if I want to run this, let's say I want to run. Where's the little run button? Okay, if I run it, it's the same thing I put in ChatGPT, right? Write a two-sentence poem for the love between Dosa and Sam. And as you can see, it shows the message you wrote and then the response it gives. So it's Dosa's crispy heart beats for Sam. The coconut chutney that brings out his savory charm. Together they unite a perfect pair, a love so strong, a flavorful and bond that disarms. So you could pretty much change it to anything you want. You could ask anything you like it to. But this is just something basic. So you could just put Romeo and Juliet instead. And the AI agent that we're using should create a two-sentence poem for it. So you can see it does develop the two-sentence poem, but this is just kind of an example of the output. So to actually get started, um, I did have to use Llama for the AI agent. So you could just search up Llama. I believe it's beta. Yeah, so you could use this one over here. And since it is pretty big, when trying to use it on your local computer, you might not actually want to actually download it on your local computer. Instead, you could actually use a cloud. So what I used was, uh, I used Llama 3.3, the latest version, I believe. Yeah, 3.3. So instead of actually downloading on your local computer, what I actually did was go on Grok Cloud. It's actually free, and you could actually, it does support many AI agents. So if you go to Playground, you could just select the AI agent you like. So you have DeepSeek, Llama, all the previous versions of Llama. But in this case, I actually used the latest version for it, just to be safe, because some versions do tend to be not as accurate or not as efficient compared to the latest ones. So when you're on the actual Grok cloud website and you actually made your account, you could create an account, and then once you actually get into it, you want to go into API keys and actually create an API key. You could just give it a name and then it'll actually generate the AI key for you. And once you actually create it, you just want to copy it. And once you do so, you do want to go into the folder you created and create an environment folder or file in this case. And you could just name it this dot n. And once you actually do it, I'm not gonna open it just for security reasons, due to the my key being in there. But once you do open it, you could add these two. This is optional if you do have an API key for an OpenAI. So you could add that one in there. But in this case, since we do have a Grok key, you want to add this one over here, and then make sure it's not commented, of course. And then just type in your key in there. And then that's all you have to do. Just leave it in there and you could just close it. And once you have that, you could finally get started on the AI agent, you know? It's nothing too complicated. But yeah, to get started, well, I guess I'll just talk about what I have right now. So what I did is actually use Phi. And with that, you could actually import the agent and you could actually also import Grok, which is what we're actually using. So agent's actually just gonna allow us to type in the model that we're using for Grok. So right here, um, I do have Llama 3.3 70B versatile, and I do have uh, imported load that doten dot env. And once you have that, this is actually just gonna allow us to generate the actual responses. So just make sure you want to have this in the beginning. And when it comes to creating the agent, you want to make sure you have the model in here. Make sure it is labeled model. And then once you do it, you want to type in Grok, which is the cloud we're using or the AI agent we're using, and then type in the ID. So for the ID, it doesn't have to be this one specifically. It could change to anything you like, but just make sure it does uh, happen to be in here. So once you go to playground, make sure the one you have selected is the one you type in. So right now I have 3.3 70B versatile. That's the exact name that I'm typing in for the ID. So make sure it's exactly like that. And then yeah, once you type it in, you just want to type in agent.print response and then the the sentence you want it to respond to. So then once you have it in, it should look something like this, such as generating. And depending on how much things you actually add, it should take a little longer. So this is just the basic stuff, right? So far when I have the finance agent, this is what I made just to make it a little complicated. It's the same thing that we have right now, but instead I'm actually importing some tools, which is actually Y Finance tool. I do have imported OpenAI chat, but in this case, I was having a little trouble finding a API key for the OpenAI chat, but I'll go into more detail on how you could use it and how you could use it for this case. So let's say, for example, you actually let's say you have a company, right? But it isn't really public or famous or on the internet yet. It's kind of like in development. You could actually add your own tools, your own custom tools. So in this case, we have actually some symbols here. So in this case, we have Phi data, and I guess the acronym you could say, or the short name for it would be MSFT. But in this case, it's not true. So let's take, for example, all of these companies, right? They're not actually public yet or actually created yet. This is just for example, right? Because we obviously know Microsoft is already a thing, Amazon is a thing, Google is a thing. We just give it short names for them, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on how you could actually use this. But for now, it's the same thing as before. We have our agent. We actually created our model here, type in the model, and we typed in the tool. So the tool, we're using Y Finance tools, which is actually going to help us get stock price when checking for things, analyst recommendations, and stock fundamentals. You just want to make all of them true. It'll make it easier when actually developing an output, depending on what we type it in. And then we want to show the tool and then markdown. This is actually just gonna make us get rid of all the weird characters that it could generate. And we have to give it instructions, right? So we are telling the instruction for the agent to use tables to display the data. And yeah, so like um, if we were to use this thing saying that these companies aren't known yet, we could actually be typing this too. If you don't know the company symbol, please use the get company uh, function. And even if it's not a public company, and then we are giving it instructions like I said before. And then this is just showing what's getting debugged when running it. So right here we're saying summarize and compare analyst recommendations and fundamentals for Tesla and Phi data. We could just type in NVIDIA, and when we run it, it should look something like this. So now look, everything's getting debugged. It's showing what's getting debugged. So hypothetically, if you were to have something go wrong, it'll actually pop up here saying that there's an error, and it'll actually tell you what it is specifically. And here you see it, everything's getting used. Um, what functions are being used, what tools are being called. Everything tells you what's running. This is just for debugging purposes if you need any help with finding what the error is. So you can see all this is getting debugged. It's finding the recommendation for the analysis. And you see here the comparison too. You could see it over here. So this is what we typed in, right? Summarize and compare analyst recommendations and fundamentals for Tesla and Nvidia. So it tells you what methods are actually getting ran when trying to look for the answer for this. And this is pretty much the output, right? So we pretty much told it to use tables to display the data, and which is what it's doing here, right? And then we're also trying to use a table for finding the fundamentals for the two companies as well. So that's the table as well. And it tells you the comparison as well. So when using the tools, it's best to use as many keywords as possible due to the fact that there is some pre-made methods in here that could be used and make it easier for the AI agent to develop things. So if you right click White Finance tool, since we did tell it to let's see, where is it? To compare analysts' recommendations and fundamentals for the two companies. When looking at the tools for White Finance, there's actually a method or a function that actually makes it easier. So right here, it should be somewhere down here. Look, get stock fundamentals, right? Since we use that keyword in the message that we typed in, it actually just uses pre-made function to actually find the answers. And then the same goes for compare analyst recommendations. I believe there should be another one in here. Yep, get analyst recommendations is pretty much just using what's already predefined to make it a lot much more easier. And yeah, it does tend to help out with a lot of things. So if you were, let's say hypothetically, we instead of comparing Tesla and Nvidia, we are using a made up company, Phi Data. We would type it in here, Phi Data, and then it should develop something else, and it should compare both, right? But in this case, since Grok, the OpenAI agent that we're using, or not the OpenAI, the sample AI agent that we're using, it isn't as reliable sometimes. So that's why OpenAI does tend to give more accurate responses. So in this case, instead of using this one, you would actually use the OpenAI chat model and that specific version. Make sure it's that specific version. And for the key, you do want to find an API key for the OpenAI in order for it to work. And yeah, and then I also have another thing called agent teams. So you kind of think of it as the agent team to be kind of like the team leader, which is pretty much just combining both agents to be used at the same time. So we do have web agent that's using DuckDuckGo for its search engines, and we are using OpenAI chat AI agent. And we are also giving instructions to always include sources to make sure it's reliable. And the same thing goes for Y Finance. We are using, you could use either or. It doesn't matter on the model you're using, as long as you do have an API key for this. So it is important to find a accurate one and a good one when running it. And we are also giving it instructions to display the data, right, using tables. And then same goes here. We use the instructions on the agent team, kind of like the team lead, and then we give it a prompt. And unfortunately, I can't run it due to the fact that I don't have an API key for the OpenAI. So I will run into errors, but you can see that the message does show up and it tells me OpenAI API key is not set, and then please set the environment variable. But this is just a simple thing, kind of just to show how an AI agent does work. So yeah, I hope you guys like the simple sample that I have. I do plan on making it more complicated just to get more familiar with it. But yeah, thank you.